Folks, I wanted to make a video to address the one piece of advice I give people when they ask me, how can I begin to resolve some pain in my life? How can I begin to address some issues I'm having? And I've been having this conversation after yoga classes. I've been teaching a few classes recently, and I've been talking with some guys at work. And the answer that I've been giving is, because what people are asking is, how do I start this journey to feel better? Because I'm not feeling too good right now. So how do I start a mobility journey? And the answer that I've been giving across the board is, the first step is to become a floor dweller. Right? Begin to be on the floor more in our home lives. So I wanted to make this video to address the two roadblocks I see people having, and I experience them myself for sure all the time. The two roadblocks I see people having to becoming a floor dweller. I'm a delivery guy, and for 10 to 12 hours a day, I'm driving around seated in hip flexion, and luckily for me, I get to stand up and reset my hips. But a lot of people are commuting for up to 4 hours a day in this Boston area, and a lot of people are commuting and then also sitting in an office chair, and a lot of people are standing. I'm thinking of nurses and teachers, and they're not necessarily moving in nutritious ways. So I'm on this mobility journey because I work all day in labor, and that is not necessarily nutritious movement, right? I come home at night and I need to reset this body that's been in flexion for a lot of the day, that's been lifting things in odd positions. I'm looking for nutritious movement, and the go-to place for that is the floor. In this culture, we don't practice that too much unless you're in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or mixed martial arts family. So it's really important that we start to take that first step in our mobility journey of becoming floor dwellers. When I first started doing yoga, a teacher of mine said, hey, if your hips are tight, get into pigeon pose. Pigeon is a yoga pose. And watch TV at night in that pose for like half an hour or however long you're watching TV. And while I don't give that advice. I'm grateful she gave it, because that gives people permission to get off the couch, which is always calling us to slump onto it, and to get on the floor, right? And if I could give you advice, it would be, don't get into pigeon. That's not, pigeon is a place where you can get hurt. Get into a 90-90 position, which is what I'm in right now, and that's the position that I get into every night as soon as I come home from work, even in my browns sometimes. So the two roadblocks to becoming a floor dweller are the initial pain that you're going to feel sitting back on the floor, because maybe for decades we've been sitting on couches or in chairs or in office chairs. And two, the emotional impact it has when we just become lower, when we're lower on the ground. So those are the two roadblocks I see that can take us out when we try to take this first step on our mobility journey. As far as the first roadblock goes, the initial pain, you can see I'm in 90-90 position here, and I'm still posting up on this hand. Like, this is a difficult and advanced position, and I'm always posting up. I'm chilling out here, and I'm getting benefits from this position. If you start to get into this position, and in this position, what's happening is it's called a shin box, 90-90, stag pose, depending on where you're training. My two thighs are making a 90-degree angle, right? So it should look like a box, but I can move my lower limbs out to any degree to get better stability. So I'm in this position. If I have tension in the knee, if that feels wonky, I hop up on a block. I used to hop up on books before I bought these cheap blocks online, or I can post up my hip, a blanket, put a blanket under my hip. Other than this position, which I stay in for a couple minutes just, on Instagram each night, I do this for each side, but then I actually do get on the floor, I get on my back, and I do some back exercises. So that floor work is going to be crucial. I'm not going to go over that now, but I do recommend getting into a 90-90. What's going to happen, why I recommend this instead of pigeon or any other pose, is because we're in hip flexion and sitting all day, our brain doesn't dissociate our hip from our lumbar spine. It thinks that they're just one hunk of meat. So if we can get our brain to distinguish that our hips can move in different ways than our spine, like one doesn't have to come along for the ride with the other, a lot of pain is going to be relieved. My go-to tip for this pose is to take the leg of the hand of the trailing leg, make an L, place the thumb in the back thigh, so I'm just sort of cupping my back thigh, and then I'm going to energetically rotate that thigh bone down, just encouraging myself to come forward. Immediately I feel my hips come forward, my navel comes forward over my front knee, toward my front knee. Now I can sort of move around, I can feel the stretch. As soon as I feel a good stretch, I just want to hang out there for a couple minutes. So that's the first impediment, is the initial pain of starting a mobility journey. The second impediment that I see potentially coming up is just it's emotionally tough to get down on the floor. We're so used to coming home, slumping on that couch. Honestly, I wish you'd get rid of your couch. I'm moments away from destroying mine with the reciprocating saw. You know, that couch is beckoning, but if you can get down on the floor and do some mobility positions while dinner is cooking or the microwave is on, while the TV is on, or while you're on Instagram, your life is definitely going to change for the better. I mean, there's no two ways about it. Rather than focus on the difficulties of being low to the ground and the discomfort of that and going back to the couch, I encourage you to think about children and babies particularly. Two things are happening with babies that we want to emulate and get back to. One is they have amazing core control because they're low to the ground. Right? We lose that if we're slumping in chairs all day, as we are commuting in an office and working in labor. Two is they engage the righting reflex, which is what the righting reflex happens in the brain. Regions of the brain are stimulated when the body comes up into balance and can stand. So when we can get up from the floor without anybody's peripheral help or grabbing onto things, that's a huge morale boost. It's a big boost for people's personhood and agency. It just feels good. It feels like you could take care of yourself if somebody knocked you down. So babies have that. You can see how joyful they are when they first stand upright. We practice this in yoga every time we do yoga when we do sun salutations and get up off the mat. You know, people ask, should I go to yoga? And, you know, I generally recommend yoga at least once a week for everybody. But yoga is not necessarily going to fix all your problems. It's going to go a long way to fixing a lot of things. But it won't necessarily round out all your mobility needs. And that's why, by far, the tip that I've been giving to people after class and at work is to become a floor dweller. So hope this helps enlighten you a little bit as to what I see the roadblocks are to being a floor dweller. Hope it helps. If it has helped, just give me a holler, let me know. And if I can answer any questions for you, just drop a comment. Thank you, folks.